Hey, everyone. Mondays with Mel is happening in less than 60 seconds. So go ahead, do me a favor, share this to your pages, share this with your friends, tag someone that you be tuned in. And if you've not already subscribed to the Matter of Focus social media pages, go ahead and do that before we get started. You can do that at Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you in a minute. Hey, everyone. Mondays with Mel is happening in less than 60 seconds. So go ahead, do me a favor, share this to your pages, share this with your friends, tag someone that you be tuned in. And if you've not already subscribed to the Matter of Focus social media pages, go ahead and do that before we get started. You can do that at Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you in a minute. Hey, everyone. Mondays with Mel is happening in less than 60 seconds. So go ahead, do me a favor, share this to your page. Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy New Year. Happy 2020. Happy 2023. Let me get that right. So I hope everybody is enjoying the beginning of 2023. I need you to go ahead and tap in. Mondays with Mel is back with your neighborhood therapist and relationship architect. And here on Mondays with Mel, we talk about everything at the intersection of relationships and mental wellness. So go ahead and share this out to people you may know, people that you think may need to hear this. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I also want to let you guys know if you have topics that you would like to be discussed, or if you have questions about any mental health, any mental wellness topic, if you have a relationship question, any of the things, I want you to message me those questions. That is what Mondays with Mel is here for. So, again, I know everyone is not necessarily ready for therapy or sitting on the couch or the virtual couch at this point. But my hope is that by giving information via Mondays with Mel, that it at least gives education, it may answer questions, or even help you to see that talking to a therapist is probably not what you think it is. It's probably not the experience you've had, and I'm also hopeful that if you've ever had a bad experience with a therapist or with therapy, that this takes the pressure off and gives you what you need, maybe encourages you to try therapy again. Okay, so listen, tonight we are talking about um what happens when shift happens. What is the deal? What happens when change is inevitable, when change is happening? And if you're listening to this now or either later, I want you to just kind of let me know in the chat. Let me know um in the chat what your thoughts are about change. Do you like change? Are you comfortable with it? Or are you like most of us and you despise change? So that's what we're talking about tonight. What happens when, what do we do when shift happens? And we're going to look at that from three different angles with, first of all, why we don't like change, and then the importance of change, and lastly, What are the things we can put in place that help us get on board with change? Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is just why we don't like change. Now, you could be odd man out and say, "Hey, I'm cool with change." But most of us, we have an issue with change. Now, there are several reasons. Um, there are several reasons. First of all, the brain is hardwired. Our body, our mind is hardwired to resist change, right? So there is a particular part of the brain, the amygdala, which it when it faces or when it believes there is change that is happening, it sends hormones of fight, flight, or um, fear. So it's going to send the hormones of fear, flight, fight. And if you know anything about these hormones, these are defense mechanisms, right? Our body is not set up to just welcome change in any facet. It is set up to protect us, as a matter of fact, from change. So let me know in the chat. Have you ever experienced change? Have you ever experienced um good change? Because even when we are experiencing good change, it doesn't mean that it comes easily, right? So let's think about even in the space of good change. It could be we are taking a new job. There is a promotion. Um, it could be that we're moving to a new city, right? I remember moving from Mississippi to Indiana, and it was the hardest thing. Not because I wasn't excited about it. It wasn't because I wasn't excited about it, but it was because there was this fear of the unknown. I was excited but afraid at the same time, right? And so there are reasons why we are fearful of change. Okay, so there was a Harvard review that talked about some of the reasons we don't really like change. And you can let me know if any of these resonate to you. So the first one is there's a loss of control. There's a loss of control. And again, I don't know if any of you are like me, but sometimes I may have a few control issues where I like to be in control. And so when we like to be in control, and most of us do, we like to have a semblance of control in our life. And when that is not the case, or when we think that is being taken away, we buck against it. We don't want to adapt. So there's a loss of control. We think there's a loss of control when things are changing. Um, there is a level of uncertainty. If things are changing, that means we don't really necessarily always know what's behind door number two or what's behind door number three. What's on the other side of the new job? What's on the other side of the promotion? What's on the other side of buying a new home? What's on the other side of having your first child? What's on the other side of marriage? Have you ever realized that even when you are in a relationship, even when you are all in love and all the things and you're getting married, you still get what's called cold feet? That's why. Because your body, literally your mind is adjusting and it's fighting against this change that can be great change and it could be good for you, but it's still something you don't know. I don't care if you've been married before. You weren't married. technically, you probably, most of us weren't married to the same person, right? So there's still this level of uncertainty that we feel when it comes to change. So another reason we don't like change is, listen, at the end of the day, we are creatures of habit. And because we are creatures of habit, when something is taking us out of our norm, we fight against it. We fight against it. And we have to let go of the past. Many of us don't want to let go of the past. Even if it's a terrible past, guess what? It's still something you know. It's still something that you are familiar with, and we thrive on the familiar. We thrive on we thrive on the familiar. We thrive on it. So those are the reasons why we usually um, don't like change. Number one, there's a loss of control. Number two, there's a level of uncertainty. Number three, it feels like everything is changing. And for many of us, the thought that things are changing is unsettling. It's as if our we're off kilter. Our foundation can be shaky. Even if you came from a broken home or anything of that nature, anything that disrupts your normal day-to-day routine is seen as a shaky foundation, and it feels very unsafe. Feels very, very unsafe. All right. Now, let's talk about the importance of embracing change. What is the importance of embracing change? And if you have questions or if you have comments, put them in the chat, and I'm going to hope I see them. I may not, but I'm going to hope I see those. All right. So, what are some reasons why it's important that we embrace change? Well, first and foremost, we need it to grow. The only thing that is inevitable in life is change. So we need to be able to embrace change in order to grow. Have you ever thought about what happens to things, people, situations that refuse to grow, refuse to adapt? Let's think back. Let's think back to even dinosaurs. Like, think about the animals that are now extinct because they did not successfully adapt. The ones that adapted, they're still around, but there's a newer version. There's an altered or a modified version. There's a new adaptation. So even for animals to stay around in 2023 from the very beginning of time, they've had to adapt in order to survive. So the same is true with us. Think about people you know, think about professionals you know who refuse to do professional development, right? Professional development is a way of adapting. How to adapt. It's we adapt our processes, we adapt our learning styles. Even as a therapist, I have to continue to adapt the techniques I use. Many of us, when we went into the pandemic, there were some of us that had to learn how to use the internet. We had to learn how to do sessions virtually. Thankfully, I was already adapting to that process prior to the pandemic, but there are many who, before the pandemic, they weren't really using virtual platforms. And so, if you were not accustomed or unwilling to grow, unwilling to adapt and change, well, some of those practices are no longer open. because they were unwilling or unable to adjust and to adapt. And so it's important that we embrace change. So even think about our kids. Think about what happens to kids. Like if you, for instance, were in school, in elementary school, and at some point you just decided, you know what, I don't want to grow anymore. I don't want to change anymore. I don't want to adapt to anything else. Well, you would be this 30, 40, 50 plus year old person with limited knowledge and limited financial potential because you failed to continue learning. Failed to continue learning. So that's why it's important that we embrace change. We don't grow if we don't embrace change. Even if it's hard, even if it's difficult, um, we have to embrace change. And I'm saying have to because it is inevitable if we are to survive, thrive, and be our best selves in this world. We have to be able to adapt to change. If you're not willing to adapt to change on your job, chances are you're going to get left behind or fired, terminated. If you are unwilling to change, to adapt in your relationship, those are things that lead to divorce, that lead to disgruntled mates. When we are unwilling to change. Now, last, let's talk about a few things that can help with embracing the change. So, number one, understand that change is normal. It's normal. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And so, first of all, just acknowledging that and being able to say that, saying that change is inevitable. Things must change in order to, for life to continue. So being able to um, say that, being able to walk in that. Number two, acknowledge what you feel. Acknowledge the change that's happening. Even though change is happening, and even though it may be uncomfortable, that does not mean it doesn't mean um it doesn't mean that you don't have to acknowledge it. So being able to acknowledge the change that's happening. And what I mean when I say that is being able to say, you know what? I'm not okay with this. I'm afraid. I'm scared. I'm pissed off. I don't like what's happening. But being able to say, being able to verbalize, being able to share how you feel about what's happening. We don't ignore it. Because if there's one thing you're always going to learn from me, it's the fact that just because you ignore something doesn't mean it's not there. Just because you choose to sweep it under the rug, you choose to suppress those feelings, does not mean it leaves your body. It's still there. It's under the surface, but it's still there. And guess what? It only needs a little fuel to raise itself up at some point at usually a very inopportune time, and that frustration comes out in a way that you normally didn't intend for it to because you refuse to admit what's wrong. So we don't ignore our emotions, we don't ignore our feelings. If you are fearful of change, if you're thinking to yourself, I'm uncomfortable with the way things are changing. I'm uncomfortable with the way things are changing at my job. I'm uncomfortable with the way things are changing with my kids, with my family, with my mate, with my friends, with my family. I am uncomfortable. Being able to acknowledge that is critical in being able to work through it. It's hard to work through something you're unwilling to admit. So being able to acknowledge it is key to being able to embrace change. Number three, um, reach out to your community, reach out to your village. Often, when we're going through changes, when we're going through transition, it may take extra love, it may take extra empathy, extra conversation from the people who are in your village to get you through it. It may be that you're looking at changes on your job, and maybe there's more support that's needed in that transition. Maybe you're moving to a new state. Maybe you're getting a divorce. Maybe you are dealing with life happenings. But those life happenings cause you to need more support. So ask, don't be afraid to reach out to your village. I'd also encourage looking into support groups. There are all types of support groups via social media, Facebook, Instagram. There are even affinity groups at a lot of your major corporations for different things. So when there's change happening either in the workplace or if there's change happening wherever, find a support group, find a group of individuals that are that may help share in what you're facing. Okay. Next thing, um, figure out what you can control. Let me go back a minute. When you are leaning into your village, it's okay to vent. It's okay to share how you feel, but don't get stuck in the vent session. Every day can't be your vent session. It's okay to get it out. We want you to get it out. We need you to acknowledge it. But every day can't be the day that we are venting. Because what happens is we get so stuck in talking about the negatives that we don't give ourselves a chance to understand the opportunities that are available that are coming possibly with the change. Okay? So, it's okay to vent, but we can't stay there. We vent and then we start to process strategies to progress. So look at the things also that you can control. Start to figure out what is in my control about this thing, this situation um, that is changing. Right? Let's say you are taking on a new job. Okay, that's not something you control if you've already said yes, but you do get to control the questions you ask, or who you reach out to as mentors. So start yourself maybe a list of things that are in my control, things that are outside my control. I can't control what time my employer says I must be at work, but I can control my attitude once I get there, right? So one thing is in my control, the other is outside my control. So understand the things that are in your control. Let's say, for example, maybe you've gotten a health diagnosis, and it is sudden, and it is not good, out of your control. Having whatever the diagnosis is in your control, finding out what you can about what you've been diagnosed with. You have a family member who's been diagnosed with cancer. In your control, finding out what you can about that type of cancer, what you can do to assist. Out of your control, their cancer diagnosis. So we don't get caught up on the things we can't control, but we absolutely spend our time focusing on the things we can control. And the last thing I want to talk about, and this is really what I want to leave you with, as it relates to embracing change, celebrate your progress. The fact that you embrace change a little bit and you don't let it, and you survive it, you start to just work on it. That within itself is progress. The fact that you didn't give up, you didn't throw in the towel, is progress. For some of us, just the first step of, instead of continuing to say, oh no, I can't do this, you start to somewhere think along the way, okay, maybe I can. I don't like it, but maybe I can. So embrace the fact that you are progressing. Change isn't easy. It is absolutely hard. Even in therapy, the work of therapy is changing. It's changing mindsets. It's changing the way we process, the way we do things, the way we communicate, the way we love, the way we set boundaries. All of that takes work. It is so easy to continue doing the same old, same old. Even if it's chaotic, it's so much easier to continue doing the same old thing. But I'm encouraging you that if you start on the journey of embracing change, give yourself a little toot toot. Give yourself credit because you are embracing it. You are willing to grow. And that's no easy feat for any of us. So in that case, celebrate your small wins. Celebrate your small wins as it relates to um, your growth, because it's not easy. Okay? Are there any questions? Are there any questions? And if there are, and you see this later, make sure you put the questions in the chat and I will absolutely come back in and answer those. Okay. So before I leave, I want to make sure that you are following. You can follow me on Instagram at the official underscore Mel Preston. You can also follow me on Instagram at our business page, which is Matter of Focus Counseling. It's the same tag name, or the same name on Facebook. And I need you guys to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is also the official Mel Preston. So if you somehow miss this stream, then make sure that you do head to YouTube and you can watch the entire thing. Have a great night. Again, happy 2023, and we'll see you soon.